it's about progress and growth. If you're not growing and progressing, you're not happy.
Hello, everybody. It's Jake Stenziano, host of Wheelbarrow Props Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, father, six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good. I'm excited. We've got a great guest today talking about multifamily. The weather's great down here in Florida. Mid-January, we got 75 degrees. My co-host over here, where are you doing in Tennessee? How's it going up there?
You know, it's not as sunny, but we're enjoying it, and it's not New York, so I'm living the dream. Anyways, we have a very special guest today. Today's guest is Rod Khleif. Rod is a passionate real estate investor who has personally owned and managed over 2,000 properties. As one of the country's top real estate, business, and peak performance luminaries, Rod has also built over 23 businesses in his 40-year business career.
Oh, so please, stop. Don't read that whole freaking thing. God, good God, no, stop, please.
Man, he's being modest. He's being modest here. I took it from you. I took it from your website. That's what we do, man.
Please,
come on now.
Stop. Make the pain stop. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. This is going to be a lot of fun today.
Hey, it's our pleasure, and I'm very interested to hear about your backstory and how you got started. Please do us the honor.
Oh yeah, sure. No, it's a painful story actually. It's got some ups and it's got some big downs. So, I immigrated this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vantje. I immigrated from the Netherlands. I was born in Holland, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for the next 30 years. And we didn't grow up with much. You know, I actually wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school until I could get a job and get my own clothes. My first job was Burger King. And you know, I remember we ate expired food. We drank powdered milk because that's all we could afford. And you know, I'm sure that some of your listeners had it harder than we did, but I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom was an entrepreneur and she had an incredible work ethic. And so she would babysit kids, a whole bunch of kids. Our house was always full of kids. And with her babysitting money, she bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me it had gone up $20,000 in her sleep. And I'm like, what? You didn't do anything? You made 20 grand? I'm like, screw college. I'm going into real estate. So I actually got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. You could do it with education back then. You didn't need experience. They got smart. Now you have to have some experience before you can become a broker. But I was a broker right when I turned 18, and I was going to be rich in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe about 10 grand. But my third year, I was well over 100 grand. And so one of the things that I like to talk about is, you know, the mindset that really what happened between year 2 and year 3. And what happened was, I discovered the power of mindset and psychology. And I met a guy, worked with a guy that taught me about this. And then since then, I've spent a lot of time following Tony Robbins around the planet, who's probably the best in the world at it. And I discovered that, you know, 80 to 90% of your success in anything, as you guys know, is your mindset and your psychology. It doesn't matter what the vehicle is, if it's real estate, if it's entrepreneurship, whatever it is, you've got to have the guts to take action, to push through limiting beliefs, to push through fear, to get uncomfortable, to actually take action with what you learn. And, you know, thank God, you know, fast forward to today, like you said, I've owned 2,000, mostly houses, but then I've also owned, you know, quite a few apartment complexes. And, you know, in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And, you know, it sounds great. And, you know,
Mama
when
was
that
proud.
happens, yeah, right. When that happens with someone, they may tend to get a big head. And I did. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. I mean, you could barely fit my head through a double door. And when that happens, you know, God or the universe or whatever you believe will give you a freaking smackdown. Well, that was 2008 and 9. I lost that 17 million, a whole lot more. I lost $50 million, just completely crashed and burned, and very, very painful. And one of the things that I enjoy talking about, if you guys will humor me, is the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, and then the mindset it took to get back to the success that I enjoy today. So if you'd like, I can expand on that a little.
Sure. Let me mention a couple of things. Jake likes to quote Ray Dalio. It's your blind spot and your egos, right? That is the big problem when you are an entrepreneur. You can't have those blind spots and you can't let your ego focus on you. And the great book says, person who is exalted shall be humbled, and those who are humbled shall be exalted. So don't think about how great you are. You are not an expert. There's no one out there that's an expert, because we've seen the last 4 years what experts are about. We're supposed to get into a war. The economy is going to crash. The stock market's up 50% from when he took over. It was supposed to be crashing. So there are no experts out there. We're all observers who are constantly learning, growing,
Shoot for excellence.
Did you just throw some politics in there?
I did not. I side sold. My point, no, my real big point is that you've been on your journey. You've learned so much, and you've probably had so many problems and opportunities, and you're probably still constantly learning because the market's shifting, everything's going on. So let's talk about that mindset.
Gino the Ayatollah is dropping bombs over here.
I just posted a picture, and I wish I had it and I could just flash it up on the screen here. I posted a picture because I never went to college. I told my mom when I was 18, I'm going to go get rich, screw college. But I've done workshops, and I do workshops every single year. And I posted a picture with my arms out with all the lanyards around, literally hundreds of boot camps that I've gone to over the years, which is my education.
Mm-hmm.
And I still go. I'm a member of several masterminds. I host my own mastermind. We're probably the largest multifamily mastermind on the planet. There's about $6 billion in assets in it, because I want to be around people and learn and grow. Learning is earning. And I remember my son, when he was 9 years old, I'd already had 2,000 properties, and I told him I'm going to a real estate boot camp. He's like, why are you going to a real estate? You could teach that. I said, because I always learn. I always grow. I like Tony events. There's an event that Tony does called Date with Destiny. And I literally paid every year for 11 years to go to that event. It was my gift to myself and I could teach the thing. I could do a damn good job teaching it. But every year we're evolving, we're growing. And if we're not, we're dying. There's no plateau. You're either growing and progressing, or you're dying. And so, I'm really glad you said that, because it really is a continual learning process. You think there's a destination. There is no destination. It's a continual growth progress. And people think that it's about the goals, which I want to talk about, which is a big mindset. And I know you guys are big believers in a strong why. And a big piece of that is I lost my train of thought because my best friend just walked around the corner here. Anyway,
say hello.
Hey,
bring him out there. Come on out, Wayne.
Wayne, just lean over here and say hi. You're gonna be a public figure here.
Wayne is famous.
You don't want to be a public figure.
Come on, Wayne. Don't be fake Wayne. We want real Wayne.
What's going on here, guys?
No fake Wayne.
Lean down.
Wayne. Oh, he's flexing. Is Wayne the personal trainer?
This guy and I've known each other I turned 60 2 days ago, 51 years, okay? He surprised me. I didn't think he was coming here, but we're having a party tonight for my birthday. So anyway.
Oh, happy birthday, man.
Gentlemen, I leave you to your work.
Is today the big 6-0?
Yeah, 2 days ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very good, man. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
We'll sing you happy birthday before you
go.
No.
Good God, no. That's to be as bad as my bio.
Rod,
anyway,
let me ask you a question, though, honestly. When you lost all that money back then, and how did you pick up from it? What lessons did you learn, specifically in real estate? Let's dive into that, because
we'll talk about that. I want to circle back to the mindset though, but let's talk. So what the deal was I had 800 houses. I had several apartment complexes, but I had 800 houses, and I was at a 30% loan to value. Okay. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar, and I still crashed and burned. But I actually went upside down. By the way, the values plummeted so much that I was upside down in the end of 2009. Okay, it's more than 70% decline. But that wasn't what killed me. The values were irrelevant. What killed me was, first of all, I had houses 2 hours north and 2 hours south and everywhere in between. Okay, so if I sent a maintenance guy to one of my apartment complexes to fix something, first of all, everything's the same. The appliances are the same. The plumbing parts are the same. The HVAC is the same. Door hardware. They could stockpile a few parts and be in and out in 30 minutes or an hour. Well, if I had to send somebody to one of my houses, it could be an hour and a half each way. Okay. Then everything's different. So they'd get there. They'd have to see what was wrong. Then they'd have to go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we had an account. And that could be another hour round trip. And then, if you've ever fixed anything, you get into it and realize, oh shit, I forgot that. And I got to go back. Well, what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my houses. And you multiply that times 800. That was one big piece. Second big piece is, as you know, Florida has
it wasn't
no state
scalable,
income tax.
is what you're saying, Rod. It
Well,
wasn't
no,
a
it wasn't
scalable
that it
model.
wasn't scalable. It just didn't fully cash flow. Because, I would have to sell a house occasionally or refinance a house to actually support the cash flow, even at that loan to value, because of the logistics of managing it.
Mhm.
So I had, and most of my properties were C-class properties that had contractors in them, painters, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, HVAC people, which fell off a freaking cliff in '08. No, none of those guys had jobs, and so that was another piece. And then Florida has no state income tax, so the property taxes are a little higher here. I was along the coast. I had wind insurance, flood insurance. All of that impacted cash flow. So when it crashed, it was the perfect storm. I mean, between the logistics of it and my tenant base, it was the perfect storm. And so, but what was interesting is as my houses were pulling me down, my apartments were doing just fine. And they pulled back like they did all over the country, but they would have survived. My thing, in my brilliance, I cross-collateralized packages of houses with my apartment complexes because I got an extra 25 basis points off the interest rate, and I thought I was brilliant. Well,
Was this
and
community
of course,
bank debt?
Yeah, a lot of it was community bank debt. Yes, it wasn't agency debt. But the other thing was, I thought 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold. I thought Florida was recession proof. I mean, that was my story. That was my tagline. 80 million owners of 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold. But as you guys know, Florida and Vegas and California were ground zero for that contraction, and that big migration is happening now. And so, as you guys know,
You had strippers with 6 condos, right?
people, yes, exactly, and it just crashed and burned.
We're not hating on strippers, all right? Everyone's got to do their thing, but I'm just saying, I'm referencing The Big Short, okay?
It's just from politics to stripping. This is
we're doing it.
Why your show's so popular. I can see why your show's so popular. So anyway, back to mindset. What I'd like to do, I'd like to share with your listeners, and I do this from time to time when I'm interviewed, is talk about the mindset it took to get there, and then the mindset it took. And you guys talk about this too. It's about the why. But I take people at my live events, I take them through this goal setting workshop, and I'd like to just give a high level overview on it if you humor me.
Sure.
And because I really think it'll add value to your listeners. And it's that time of the year anyway. And so what I'm going to suggest you guys do that are listening, pick an hour when you have a lot of uninterrupted and you have a lot of energy, and just sit down and write down everything you could possibly want in life. Okay. And all the stuff. Start with the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes. Write all the stuff down, because again, what we have to do is we have to get enough of a reason why and hone in on what we want, or we're never going to get it. How the hell are you ever going to get anything if you don't have clarity on what it is? So write everything down you can think of. Also write down, maybe what you want to do in your lifetime. Write a book like you guys, you got 2 bestsellers already. And so maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to climb a mountain. Maybe you want to, jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I did that 6 months ago. I'll never do it again, but it's off the freaking list. Whatever it is, write down what you want to do. So not just the stuff. Write down how much money you want in the bank in 3 years and 10 years. How much money you want from your cash flow from properties in 3 years and 10 years. Also write down what you want to learn. Me, I'm going to learn how to play the drums. My wife bought me a drum set, and I still don't know what end of the stick to use, but I'm going to learn how to play the drums. I want to learn how to fly helicopters. Write down what you want to learn. Then lastly, write down who you want to help. And like, I bought my parents a house here in Florida, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to do something for? Write that down. By the way, I've got a goal setting guide. I just did a Facebook Live post on this. If you text 2020 goals as one word, 2020 goals to 41411, the guide is there. It's free download. Just get it and use it for this. But write down everything you want. Write down everything you want to learn. Write down everyone you want to help. And then when you can't think of another thing, and by the way, if you're analytical, don't stop and analyze shit. Just keep writing. Don't let the pen leave the paper. Make sure you got high energy for this. But write down every big little thing you can possibly think of. Write down the things you want to do for the people that matter, because we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. Write down things that you're going to do for your spouse and your kids and all that. Then once you can't think of another thing, there's a couple more steps. I want you to put a time limit on each goal. Put a number by each goal. Put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20, recognizing that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, 20 years. Give you an example. When I lived in Denver, I always wanted to live on the beach, and there's no freaking beach in Denver, but I knew I wanted to live on the beach. And so I would visualize palm trees and sand and waves and all that stuff. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot house on the beach. And it was unthinkable when I was 18. So the point is, take the lid off your brain when you're writing your goals down. Just imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it, because I will tell you that it's not outside the realm of reality. So if you want a jet, a private yacht, whatever it is, write it down. What it does is it triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And it's that subconscious filter in your brain that filters out what it thinks is most important. And you guys, you're smiling, so you probably talk about this shit all the time.
No, we make a joke. It's the Back to the Future thing. What do they call it, Gino?
Right.
The flux capacitor.
The flux capacitor. Whenever I hear that, I always think flux capacitor. Inside joke, not to throw you off there, sir.
Oh, okay, no, it's cool, but it's that filter in your brain. Like right now, you're not thinking about what your butt feels like in the seat. Now that I mentioned it, it's pointed. It triggers. It points your brain at what it thinks it's important. The best example is when you first buy a car. You don't really notice them, but then you buy that car, you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Sure, they were. Mm-hmm. And and that's why writing your goals down and getting as clear as you can and doing it regularly. I mean, Grant Cardone says do it every day. I'm not sure I do it every day, but do it regularly. And because
you're honing in and you're creating awareness, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You're honing in on it. And so that's why these goals are so important. Now, once you put a time limit on each goal, like how many years, 1, 3, 5, 10, 20, I want you to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, if you got it let me rephrase that. When you get it, oh my God. I mean, you're just like, holy cow, I cannot believe that happened. That goal, put it on another piece of paper. If you use my guide, there's a spot for it. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on another piece of paper. So you've got 4 goals. Leave some room in between them. Now you're already, in fact, you're ahead of 99% of the world right now. Okay, most people do a New Year's resolution or 2, which are forgotten by February. But most people spend more time planning Christmas or a birthday than they do designing their lives. You're designing your life. All right, so you've got your 4 goals off. Now, the goals are important. The goals will pull you. They'll get you juiced, but the real juice is the why. And I know you guys are big believers in having a strong why. So you've got to write down why those goals are an absolute must. And use emotionally charged words. Words are so freaking powerful. So use words like amazing and incredible and beautiful and because words will move you. But write down so my family and I can have freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever it is for you, write the why down. And, so I can show my wife what success looks like, so I can retire my husband, so I can show my kids what it means to be successful. Again, we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. Use that in your whys. Once you've got compelling, positive reasons why, I want to do one little twist on this. Put some pain in there if you don't achieve the goal. Because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So use this. So I don't feel like a freaking failure if I don't get my goal. So I don't live a life of reject. So I don't have regrets at the end of my life. So I don't fail my wife. So I don't fail my children. I know that sounds harsh, but this is the fuel, guys. This is the fuel to push through any limiting beliefs, to push through any fear, to get uncomfortable. The comfort zone's a warm place, but nothing freaking grows there. So you got to have the fuel to push through it. And so you've got your positive, negative reasons why. And then the last thing I want to tell you is you need to download pictures of your goals. Have them around you. Like if you looked around me here, you'd see the pictures of the things that matter to me now. But I want to share some public examples because the power of visualizing this stuff is incredibly powerful. Some of you might be, I'm thinking I'm in foo-foo land, but hear me out before you think that. So Jim Carrey, when he was flat broke, wrote himself a check for $10 million. He'd go up to the Hollywood sign. He'd look at it, visualize cashing it. That's how much he made for Dumb and Dumber. There was a great story with Walt Disney. When Epcot Center was built, Walt Disney had already died. Roy Disney was at the grand opening, his brother. And a reporter came up to Roy and said, hey, it's a shame that Walt didn't get to see this. And Roy looked at him and said, dude, the only reason you're seeing, probably didn't say dude, but he said, the only reason you're seeing this is because Walt saw this. I'll give you one other really cool example that I read about. There's this millionaire in New Orleans, and he adopted a class, and at this school, a very small percentage of the kids went to college. It was like in the teens, 18, 19% of the kids went to college, okay? All he did was he did kind of an experiment. He put them all on a bus and he took them to a local college. I think it was Loyola. And they got paired up with a college student. Each one of these grade school kids got paired up with a college student, and they spent the day with them. They went to classes. They went to the cafeteria. They went to the library. They walked around campus. They got to feel and viscerally see what college was like. Then they just bust them back home. And all they did was, for the next 2-3 years, every day for 5 minutes, they would close their eyes. This was guided, and they would visualize themselves going to school. Now, if my memory serves me, over 80% went to college. Okay, so that's, I meant college. That's how big a deal visualization is. I'll give you some personal examples. When I was 18, I got my real estate broker's license, like I said, and so I figured I had to have a 4-door car, and I bought this bone ugly 4-door Granada. It had a bench seat in the front. I mean, just ugly as can be. But I worked with a guy that had a Corvette, had 2 of them actually, and he let me drive one. And that is really important too. If there's a goal that you want, experience it as much as you can. Go test drive the car. Go to an open house of, houses like you want, and experience it. And I'll give you a personal example for me right now. I want to have a yacht at some point. I took my wife to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. It's spectacular, and there's all these yachts there, and I've decided I want to rent or buy a yacht, go from Spain all the way around the boot of Italy, go to Croatia, Greece. That's on my bucket list. So I went to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show like 3 or 4 months ago, and I BS'd my way onto some big yachts, pretending I had money, and I got to sit in a captain's chair, and I visualized owning that thing and laying out on it and all that, because it works. So back to my car example, I wanted a Corvette. This was before you could spell internet, and I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine, put it on the visor of that 4-door Granada. So every time I sat in it, it was like looking at me. Within a year, I had a beautiful Corvette. And I'll give you a couple more examples, but please let me pre-frame this by saying this is not me bragging, because this stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. But it's great to hopefully inspire you guys that are listening to the power of this. So this is back when the TV show Magnum PI was out, and the actor's name was Tom Selleck. He was this detective in Hawaii, but he had this red Ferrari 308. I mean, and I thought that was the coolest freaking thing I'd ever seen. So I got a picture of that actual car out of a magazine, put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it, a Maserati Merrick from the front end. And last example, I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. Okay, I had posters in my bedroom with the Lamborghini Countach. I think picture with Mike Tyson. I think he bought it, him and his wife one for the week that they were married. But I had all these Lamborghinis. But what's cool is my son actually collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30 or 40 of them, every type of exotic, Aston Martin, Maserati, and Lamborghini. And he had a model of the exact same color and style that I ended up getting. In fact, I want to show you guys something. I have a planner here. This is my planner. It's on today. And in the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years, okay? First pictures are my gratitude pictures. Everything starts from a place of gratitude. So these are my kids over 20 years ago. These pictures have been in here for 20 years. I'm not exaggerating. And then I've got, so gratitude is critical. So if you're going to do vision boards, make sure you've got a gratitude vision board as well, which I do. Then here's the pictures of the houses that I wanted. What's crazy is this top picture looks just like that house I built on the beach. Okay, I had 80 feet of glass that was 10 feet high, and it travertine floors, marble floors, just like that picture. And what else is crazy? This bottom picture. See the railing here? Mm-hmm. Look behind me. This was 20 freaking years ago, and it's the exact same freaking railing. Okay, this stuff works. Stupid shit like watches. I've got a couple $100,000 worth of watches. The Lamborghini, before I ever got it. Okay, there's a picture of it. The Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. So like I said, you guys that are poo-pooing this, that's a big mistake. This stuff works, okay?
So Rod, how do I get Jake into a plane? I can't even get him to a plane. He won't even jump out of a plane. How do I get you into a plane, Jake?
It's desire, man. I have no interest in it, and it goes, to what he was saying about like knowing your why, and part of my thing was I wanted to make sure my family was taken care of, and I wanted to be complete control of my life. So I live life on my own terms now. So if someone wants me to get into a plane, it has to be something that I want to do, and if I have no desire to do it, it's not happening. I mean, I'm not trying to be a prick about it, but that's just
if you have not been to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. I'm telling my buddy.
Well, I'm
Wayne,
sure it's beautiful, but I enjoy my life. I wake up
it's
every day and love my
life.
Man.
It's sublime.
No, I don't deny it. It's just not a huge burning desire or passion that I have. I'm a simple guy, and I think that even with this like this personal stuff, we all have our little toys and trinkets that we like. I think that our friend Rick Sapio really opened my eyes to some things, because it's this lifestyle by design, and we have everything that you're saying from the personal aspect rolls over into the business, rolls over into the family. And we saw, Rick a couple months ago, and we were going down, and he does this family placemat. And so similar to how we have our quarterly meetings for our businesses, we have our planning meetings. I do that weekly with my family now, and it's literally the core values for the family. I picked that all up from Rick. So I think this extends beyond your personal stuff. This goes into your business. This goes into your family life. And the one thing that Rick said is like, simplicity is beautiful. And that's a personal thing. You may want 15 cars, you may want, the boat and everything, but also it's picking the few things that really matter to you, that you really want to put the money behind, and then living the life of simplicity, so that, because you're talking about your houses before, they were too scattered out and it was tough to scale. That was creating chaos within, because it was hard to structure. And that's why we love multifamily so much, because it's this duplicatable, scalable model. So it's finding, and I think what you said, even if you go and rent the yacht, you're probably going to be happier, because when you're done with that thing, you're going to be able to give the keys back. You enjoyed the whole experience, and you don't have the carry costs and the bullshit that goes with a huge liability.
Maybe.
So, but I mean, Rod, more power to you. I'm not saying, look, don't listen to me. If you want to own it, do you, man? I think everyone live life on your own terms. I'm just saying, like, getting the full enjoyment out of something,
Yeah.
So
I don't understand something. That stuff doesn't interest me anymore.
Yeah.
I have other interests now.
It's not. I'm not coming across saying it's bad. It's just with as many businesses we all have going on, it's trying to simplify the life as much as possible, and focus on the high things that really move it for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I love simple. I love lifestyle. I love having a lifestyle, but I think I enjoy chaos a little bit, maybe a little too much.
Well, as an entrepreneur, you may have to, right?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we bought 1,000 doors this year. We've got 500 under contract right now. So we're we've got some chaos going on. That with the thought leadership platform, like you and I both have, it's a lot. But what's cool is like you guys, I freaking love this, and here's why I love it. You can see behind me here. I mean, you can't even see them. I've got a whole wall back there of thank you cards, and I literally get love every single day, either by a thank you, handwritten thank you card, or email, or text, or DM on Facebook or social media, and it's like, it doesn't get. I know you guys do too. It's like,
no, the gratitude is fuel, right? The gratitude is 100%
it totally
fuel.
is. And I mean, I'll sometimes put in 12-hour Sundays, and I do have to pull that back a little bit, but I freaking love this. And so, it's just such a gift. We have two hands, one to pull ourselves up and one to pull other people up behind us. And let me share one other thing about goals before we move on and I forget. So I talk about that mansion that I built on the beach. Okay, I lost it and all the craziness, but I mean, this place was magnificent. It was 10,000 square feet. I had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool, and like I said, 80 feet of glass. It was all butt together, 10 feet high. It was just like a living outside. I could see the ocean on one side, and I owned the ocean on one side. I owned my boathouses on the backside. It was called the Gulf to Bay. I'll land the plane on this. With this comment, I had this giant spiral staircase up through the middle of it. It was concrete and just magnificent. On the second floor, I had fish tanks that were curved around the staircase, visible on both sides. The fish tanks were, I think, 180 grand. So that gives you an idea of the house. Well, anyway, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool, and this is 2 months. This is something I worked for 20 freaking years. Okay, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Changing colors, it's got fiber optic lighting, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. I built this house to prove to the world I was good enough. That's the reality of it. It's embarrassing sometimes to admit that, but that's the truth of it. So I'm looking up at this thing, And I got really depressed. And I don't mean just bummed. I mean, I got seriously depressed. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I've just achieved success on a huge multiple by societal standards. And I mean, I was bummed. And when I look back on it, there were three things happening. And I want to share them with your listeners because they're really important. The first thing as it relates to goals is you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You have to have a vision for the future. And I was like, what am I going to do now? So that was number one. There are a couple other things. And that is, number two is it's never about the goals. I mean, the goals are critical. You have to have them. But it's not about the destination. Like I said, I worked for this for 20 years. Within 2 months, I was like over it. Okay. It's about progress and growth. If you're not growing and progressing, you're not happy. So, so that was the second piece. But the third, I think the most big piece was I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. I was totally focused on Rod. It was me, 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 me. Show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. And it was a totally inwardly focused. So that year is the year I met Tony Robbins, and I went to one of his events and found out he fed families. And so I'm like, hey, what a concept. Do something for someone else. And it was embarrassing to admit that I didn't get that till I was 40. And so I came home and I was like, you know what? I called my brother. I said, let's feed 5 families. So we called a church. We said, who really needs help? Who's desperate? Third family changed my life. We brought them big boxes of food. It was for Thanksgiving. We brought them frozen turkeys, toys. We found out how many kids they had. We brought toys for the kids. We go up on the porch and we throw this stuff down and knock on the door. And the lady comes out. She sees all this. It's a single mom with 5 kids in this, not even a 1-bedroom. It was like a studio. And she starts crying. Her kids come out. The older ones start crying. I start crying. And I am now blessed to say we have fed over 75,000 children for the holidays here in Sarasota and Bradenton. I've done over, I think, probably pushing 20,000 backpacks filled with school supplies locally. I've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to put in their cars. And I'm not bragging here. What I want to tell you guys that are listening, that are super, you're listening because you want financial success. And I'm here to tell you that without this piece is not success. I interview, gazillionaires on my show, just like you guys do. And I can recognize if they're like I was back then, totally focused on themselves, not interested in anything other than themselves. And I feel sorry for them because they may have financial success, but they're truly not successful. So those of you that are listening thinking, okay, well, once I have the money, I'll give back. Big mistake. Do it now. Even if it's in a small way. You guys agree with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This strategy? Yeah.
Go now. You mentioned
now.
Arnold earlier.
Yeah, there you go. So give back. Anyway, I landed the plane. I just wanted to make sure that
No worries. Getting a little long. So let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor. Gino and I are super excited to tell you about the audiobook version of The Honeybee, which will be released on February 18th.
The Honeybee tells the story of Noah, a disappointed, disaffected salesman who feels like his life is going nowhere until the day he has a chance encounter with a man named Tom Barnum, the beekeeper. In his charming, down-home way, Tom, the bee man, teaches Noah and his wife Emma how to grow their personal wealth using the lessons he learned from his beekeeping passion.
In the audio version, Gino and I sat down for an exclusive interview after each chapter where we elaborate on the stings we felt throughout the business, the importance of scaling up, and how we've been able to create multiple streams of revenue.
For more information and to get your copy of the audiobook, visit jakeandgino.com/honeybee.
So Jake,
All right, G-Daddy's got one more. Hit him.
Yeah, no, I just want to piggyback off of the goals also. So I think if everybody has to think of as the goals is the destination, and you don't fall in love with the results, you got to fall in love with your actions. And you have to think of goal setting as a process. So if your goal is to buy a multifamily property, what I want you to think of is what are those actions that are going to take in the process to get your first multifamily? What do you need to do? You need to identify as a multifamily investor. You need to surround yourself in a community with like-minded individuals. You need to educate yourself. You need to go underwrite deals. You need to select the market. You need to go visit those brokers, call those brokers. All those processes you have to fall in love with. Don't fall in love with the idea of buying the asset. You're going to get that asset sooner or later. If you fall in love with the process of that, you're going to hit the goal ultimately. And like Rod said, those goals might be dreams in the beginning. You might think to yourself, these are unachievable. Focus on the process. Focus on those little actions that you take. Every time you call a broker, every time you get rejected, it's just the next step into hitting those goals. Don't fall in love with those goals, because ultimately you're going to hit them if you fall in love with the process.
It's really who you become on your path to the goals, Gino.
Mhm.
It's your growth and your progress. I want to mention, I know you guys just wrote a fantastic book. I wrote a book, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago, and I gave it away. I gave away 20,000 copies. It's called How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow. Finally my team was like, hey, stupid, let's put it on Amazon, make some money. So I finally put it on Amazon. It's a bestseller in 3 categories. But because I didn't have anything else to give away, I want to mention that I created this due diligence checklist on steroids. It's called the Multifamily Property Toolbook, and I'll give it to your listeners for free. But it's almost 70 pages, and it's every freaking question you could ever think of to ask when you're buying a multifamily property. So if you guys want it, just text Rod to 41411, and it's a free download. But it's not fluffy. There's no sales shit in it. It's literally just, and we use it when we're evaluating a property, because the beautiful thing about multifamily is it's primarily empirical. It's primarily numbers. You get the numbers right and you ask the right questions, it's pretty hard to make a mistake. Every possible question you can think of is in here. I'm really proud of this, and I know that you guys will get value from it. So I wanted to give that to your listeners for free.
Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure, buddy.
So, Rod, what is your best habit for success?
I would say, I if you don't mind, I'll give a couple. So the big thing is focus. And, we talked about Tim Ferriss, the podcast that I listened to, because, I was so shocked to see that all these hitters that he interviews meditate, and that's to enhance focus. So focus is probably, anything you can do to enhance your focus. Now, I use an app, which is really cool. I'll share it with your listeners. It's called hold on. It's called Pizziz. Now I can't share it, but it P-Z-I-Z-Z. And what you can do on it is, it's free, I think. You can do nap, and you can do focus, and you can do sleep, but you can set the time. And I will sometimes set it for 10 minutes, and it'll put me to sleep for a couple minutes. But you can also meditate with it. Now, there are all kinds of great meditation apps. I think Jake, you were talking about using one. I think isn't that correct? You use a guided meditation?
Let's see. What is it? I forgot the name of it real quick.
Yeah, so there's lots of them. I just want to mention
Headspace. It's very generic. I think a lot of people use Headspace, but yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So that's a critical piece, is focus. But I do this little morning ritual. I could get up and get my vision boards. They're right behind me here. I do this morning ritual where I sit in a chair and I just do gratitude for the things in my life that matter. My beautiful wife, my kids, my coaching students, my foundation, and I just do gratitude. And like I said, it's foundational to everything. It's the most important emotion. You can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. Gratitude's so powerful. But then I'll sit, and literally that takes 2 minutes. Then I'll sit and I'll be grateful for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I'll sometimes get emotional being grateful for things that I don't even have yet, okay? That's how and I know I've lost a few more of the analytical ones here, but I'm telling you, this stuff freaking works. If you want these things in your life, you visualize them. And I use vision boards. They're back here. I could get them if you want to see them, but they're I've got a gratitude board, and then I've got vision boards for the different things that I want in my life, because sometimes I have a hard time seeing the picture, so I just look at the picture. It's very, very powerful. And then usually I'll end it with a declaration that it's going to be an amazing day. And it almost always is, because, as you say it, so shall it be. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What about a book recommendation for the folks out there?
Yeah. Oh, God. Again, I'm going to give you more than one, just because my love language is gifts. I love giving gifts. All my students get gifts from me every single month. They're usually books. In fact, the first one, let me mention, is the 5 languages of love. So if you're listening and there's anyone in your life you love, your parents, your children, your spouse, meaning get this book, period. You need to know what their love language is, because people feel love different ways. And my way of giving love is gifts. So let's see, one of the books I gift is Turning Pro. It's about taking your life from being an amateur to becoming a professional. Pressman's the author. Another one is The Slight Edge, about those little decisions you make every day that traject your life either up or down, and they stack up. The Magic of Thinking Big. I love that one. Of course, Kiyosaki's, all of Kiyosaki's books are fantastic. Think and Grow Rich. I've given away thousands of copies of that. That's a book you should read a couple times a year. That's enough.
That's enough.
Yeah.
And finally, what project are you excited about right now?
Well, we've got 500 doors under contract. I suppose on a project basis, My mastermind, I'm really loving that, because I'm sure you guys are in masterminds, and anytime you get two Napoleon Hill talks about this in Think and Grow Rich. Anytime you get two like minds together with what he calls a definiteness of purpose, meaning the same vision and goals for the future, they create a third, almost intangible third mind. And I had the first iteration of my house. I had 16 people here, and there was about $1 billion in assets, and it was just incredible, the nuances. People that think what you think is hard is easy. Like you said, you want to be in an environment, a community. You guys have created a great community, and you want to be around people that if you're going to play tennis, you're going to get better if you play somebody better than you or worse than you. And so it's the same analogy for multifamily, because there's people that think what you think is hard is easy. You want to be around those people, and so now this thing's turned into this incredible, there's $6 billion in assets in it, and it's just I'm real proud of that, and I want to take that to the next level. So I suppose that's probably the biggest thing.
Very cool. Well, we really appreciate your time. G-Dad, you got anything else?
How can the listeners get a hold of you, Rod?
Well, get this freaking book. Just text Rod to 41411, and you'll get introduced to my ecosystem. But rodkhleif.com is the best. I've got videos and books and all sorts of stuff there that's free. Like, the people that are the most successful in the world, like you guys, are the ones that add the most value. So I have a ton of stuff on my website I just give away, and so it's rodkhleif.com, KHLEIF.com. So that's probably the best.
Mr.
Cool.
Stenziano, this has been a great show. It's all about the mindset, really. 80% psychological, 20% mechanical. That's what it comes down to. We can teach you cap rates, cash on cash returns. You just have to figure out what you want. Don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you do want. And
whatever you focus on grows. I've had people say, I need to get out of debt, and I say, wrong question. They asked Mother Teresa, if she was anti-war, and she said, no, I'm pro-peace.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Love my Mother Teresa.
Peace and prosperity, folks.
Yeah, baby. Yeah,
Take care, everybody.
It's really good to see you guys.
You too. Thanks, Rod.
Yeah.